Once, in a time when the stars whispered to the mountains and the rivers sang to the trees, there existed a kingdom known as Elowen. It was a land of eternal spring, but the most magical part of Elowen was the royal garden. In the very center of this garden grew a single, shimmering silver rose. It was said that as long as the rose bloomed, the kingdom would know peace. One frosty midnight, as the moon reached its peak, a baby girl was born to the king and queen. She was the most beautiful sight the kingdom had ever seen. Her skin was as pale as the winter moon, her hair was as dark as the shadows of the ancient oaks, and her eyes sparkled like the silver petals of the sacred rose. They named her Rosella. But happiness in Elowen was like a passing cloud. Soon after Rosella's birth, the kind queen passed away, leaving the king in a world of silence. For years the king mourned, until one day, a mysterious woman arrived at the palace gates. Her name was Lady Morwenna. She was tall, breathtakingly beautiful, but her eyes were as cold as the depths of a frozen lake. Lady Morwenna became the new queen, but she brought a dark chill with her. Hidden in the highest tower of the castle, behind a heavy iron door, she kept her greatest treasure, the Mirror of Souls. This was no ordinary mirror. It was forged from volcanic glass and trapped the spirit of an ancient oracle. Every morning, before the sun dared to touch the sky, Morwenna would stand before the mirror, her long velvet robe sweeping the floor. She would whisper with a voice like cracking ice,
"Mirror of souls, ancient and true, who is the fairest the world ever knew?"
For years, the mirror would reply in a hollow, echoing voice.
"You, O Queen, are the moon in the night. None can match your shimmering light."
And Morwenna would smile, a cold, sharp smile. But as the years turned into seasons, Rosella grew. She wasn't just beautiful, she was kind. She spent her days helping the palace gardeners and feeding the wild birds of the forest. By the time she turned 17, her beauty had become a legend that traveled far beyond the borders of Elowen. One fateful morning, the queen stood before her mirror, expecting the usual praise. But when she asked her question, the mirror's glass rippled like dark water. The oracle's voice was like a thunderclap.
"You are fair, Morwenna, it is plain to see. But Princess Rosella is fairer than thee."
The queen's face contorted with rage. She shattered a vase with a single touch. Jealousy, like a poisonous vine, wrapped around her heart. She could not bear the thought of Rosella existing in the same world as her. She summoned her most loyal huntsman, a man who had never failed a task.
"Take the girl deep into the black forest," she hissed, "where the trees have no leaves and the sun never shines. End her life, and bring me the silver locket she wears around her neck as proof."
The huntsman led Rosella into the woods under the guise of a nature walk. The further they went, the darker it became. The air turned heavy, and the trees seemed to reach out with claw-like branches. When they reached the heart of the forest, the huntsman drew his sharp silver blade. Rosella turned, her eyes wide with terror.
"Why do you do this, good sir? I have done nothing but love this kingdom."
The huntsman looked at her innocent face. He saw the way she didn't beg for her life, but prayed for the king. His hand trembled. He couldn't do it.
"Run, princess!"
He whispered urgently.
"Run as far as your feet can carry you. Never return to Elowen, for the queen's shadow is long and her heart is iron. Go now."
To trick the queen, the huntsman found a wild wolf, took its silver-furred hide, and returned to the castle. Morwenna, believing she was finally the fairest of all, laughed a hollow, terrifying laugh. Rosella ran until her breath burned like fire. She stumbled over roots and pushed through briars until she saw a tiny warm light flickering in a clearing. It was a cottage built into the roots of a giant ancient willow tree. Inside, everything was small and perfectly arranged. There were 7 tiny wooden chairs, 7 bowls of warm soup, and 7 small beds made of soft moss. Exhausted and hungry, Rosella took a tiny sip from each bowl and curled up across the beds, falling into a deep sleep. As the moon rose, the inhabitants of the cottage returned. They were the 7 Moonweavers, magical beings who collected starlight to keep the forest alive. They were startled to find a giant, to them, girl sleeping in their home.
Look at her. She's beautiful,
Whispered the youngest weaver. When Rosella woke up and told them her story, the weavers' hearts melted.
You shall stay with us, Princess. We will hide you from the Queen's dark gaze, but you must promise to never open the door to a stranger.
Back at the palace, Morwenna stood before the mirror, certain of her victory.
Mirror of souls, who is the fairest now?
The mirror shivered.
Beyond the mountains, where the willow grows tall, Rosella lives, the fairest of all.
Morwenna screamed in fury. She realized she had been betrayed. She went to her secret chamber and brewed a potion that turned her into an old, hunched-back peddler woman. She traveled to the Willow Cottage carrying a basket of magical silk ribbons.
Laces for sale. Beautiful ribbons for a beautiful girl.
She called out. Rosella, forgetting the warning, looked out the window. The ribbons were the color of the sunset. Rosella thought. The old woman offered to tie the ribbon around Rosella's waist. But as soon as she did, the ribbon tightened like a serpent, cutting off Rosella's breath. She fell to the floor, lifeless. When the Moonweavers returned, they found her. With their magic, they cut the silk ribbon just in time. Rosella gasped for air.
It was her, the Queen.
You must flee, she is coming.
The Queen tried a second time with a poisoned comb, but again, the weavers saved her. Now, Morwenna was desperate. She used her darkest magic to create a crystal berry. It looked like a delicious glowing strawberry, but inside was a drop of eternal sleep. She disguised herself as a poor farmer's wife. When she reached the cottage, Rosella refused to open the door.
I cannot let you in, good woman.
Rosella said through the window.
Oh, I understand.
The Queen said with a fake smile.
It's
The Queen
quite
ate
harmless,
the safe
dearie.
half,
Go on,
which had
take
no poison.
a bite. It's ever
Rosella,
so
seeing
sweet.
this, took a bite of the other side. Instantly, her world went dark. She fell to the ground, and this time, no matter what the Moonweavers did, magic, songs, or tears, she would not wake up. The Moonweavers could not bear to bury the beautiful Rosella in the dark earth. They built a coffin of pure clear crystal and placed it on the highest peak of the Stargazer Mountain. For months they stood guard, their tiny lanterns glowing in the dark. One day, Prince Alaric from the neighboring Kingdom of the Sun was riding through the forest. He saw the glittering coffin on the mountain and climbed.
Subscribe for next part.